Animation has made a giant leap from where it started to where it is now. Many people think of animation and they automatically think of cartoons and movies. There is no doubt that animation is very entertaining, but animation as we know it today did not always exist. Animation did not start as funny videos, but more as a process. The creation of devices, development of drawings, and a lot of improvement went into making animation work. In order to understand animation, it is important to first understand persistence of vision and the devices that contributed to it. It all started with optical toys. Optical toys allowed people to get the illusion of a moving scene by having a series of images pass through rapidly, which created a short moving clip. For example, the stereoscope allowed viewers to see a 3D image. Then in 1832, the phenakistoscope was invented. Then in 1834, the zoetrope was invented. These devices helped to show that by showing slightly different images continuously, movement could be established. Edward Muybridge created the next giant leap. He is believed to be the first cameraman in history. He was hired by Leland Stanford, who was the owner of many racehorses. Stanford wanted to prove to one of his colleagues that horses at one point have all four hoofs in the air, as opposed to the common belief that people had that horses at least have one hoof on the ground at all times. In order to be able to capture the horse's movements, Muybridge set up a series of cameras along the racetrack that would go off as horses moved. By setting up multiple cameras, Muybridge was not only able to show the movement of a horse and prove Stanford's point that a horse at some point is completely in the air, but he was also able to show that movement can be perceived by using a series of continuous still images. After Edward Muybridge's accomplishment, Thomas Edison greatly helped to further develop these devices. Edison and Dickson developed the phonograph and the kinetoscope. These devices helped to put small clips and sound together. These devices were important because it allowed for the recording of films, sound, and development of images. Animation was inspired by Italian and French figures because of the way they acted and their unique qualities. Émile Cohl was a big contributor to animation. Cohl was a French director and he used stop-motion photography to develop his films. He is most known for his short film, Phantasmagorie. Phantasmagorie was one of the first cartoons when it came out in 1908. The cartoon took place on a chalkboard which helped show the transition between images and scenes, because it begins with showing the hand that drew the images. Showing the hand was a key component because it let the people know that it was animated. After Émile Cohl's French style came Winsor McCay. People usually say that animation started with him. His most famous piece of work is Gertie the Dinosaur, which came out in 1914. Gertie was the first dinosaur to appear on a screen, and it was the world's first key-frame animation cartoon. The film was created by tracing the same image over and over and changing it slightly to create movement. The slight shakes or delays are caused because the drawings were made by hand, so it was difficult to create the exact same image over and over. After Gertie the Dinosaur, the most popular animated character was Felix the Cat, who was created by Otto Mesmer. Felix the Cat was considered the first animated character because it was not just one clip, but a series of clips that portrayed a story. Today, Disney is one of the most popular animators. One of his first creations was Steamboat Willie. Steamboat Willie featured Walt's most famous character to date, Mickey Mouse. The cartoon was a big hit because of how he was able to incorporate and synchronize sound with the character's movement. Walt Disney also made his studio, which was first known as Laugh-O-Grams, and developed many small clips and cartoons. The years 1930 to 1950 are very important to animation. These years are considered the golden ages of American animation because of the boom of studios and animators. Walt Disney continued to develop his cartoons of Mickey Mouse, and he also developed Donald Duck and created his Silly Symphonies. Silly Symphonies are a compilation of 75 short films which were created mainly to highlight music. The actions and setup of the characters were synchronized with the music. Warner Brothers also entered the market of animation with the creation of Bugs Bunny and Looney Tunes. Their Merry Melody series came out in the 1930s. Although MGM Studios developed around the 1920s, it did not get much fame until it created The Wizard of Oz. Fleischer became very popular during this era because of Betty Boop and Popeye. These cartoons focused on different aspects than the ones Disney did. In 1937, Walt Disney released his film Snow White. He took the Brothers Grimm story and transformed it into the fairy tale we know today. Snow White was the first film of its kind. In order to create the animation, real-life characters acted out the scenes and their gestures and expressions were used to create the animations. Also, rotoscoping and hand-drawn images were used to create this film. Shortly after, Fleischer came out with his own version of Snow White. The two films had similarities and followed the same storyline, but the take of them were completely different. Disney's version had more emotional scenes. In the scene where Snow White was in a coffin, there was a sense of sadness and all the dwarfs were crying, while in Fleischer's Betty Boop, it is a reunion with her friends. The television was the next device that impacted animation. The television started to become a commodity in households between the 1960s and 1980s. The first animated cartoon to appear on television was The Flintstones in the 1960s, and Yogi Bear was released in 1961. Both of these series were released by Hanna-Barbera Productions. The next big thing was CGI, which completely changed the image of animation. CGI uses computer software to create 3D images. This technology was developed between the 1960s and 1970s. The first character created using CGI was a stained glass knight in the film The Young Sherlock Holmes that premiered in 1985 and was created by the Industrial Light and Magic. The first feature film created entirely using CGI technology was Toy Story, which was released in 1995. It wasn't until the 2000s that CGI became a common effect used in creating animation. A most recent film created using CGI is Big Hero 6. The top 3 animation studios today are Pixar, Walt Disney Animation Studios, and DreamWorks Animation. Pixar's most popular and successful films are all 3 Toy Story films, WALL-E, Brave, Ratatouille, and Inside Out. The Pixar company was purchased by the Walt Disney Company in 2006, which resulted in collaborating films. Walt Disney Animation Studios' most recent successes are Frozen, Wreck-It Ralph, and Big Hero 6. DreamWorks Animation's most recent films produced are Shrek, How to Train Your Dragon, Madagascar, and Kung Fu Panda.